Right, Tokyo. You've seen the pictures, haven't you? Endless streams of people dressed as cartoon characters, neon signs flashing so brightly you need sunglasses at night, and vintage shops bursting with incredible bargains on every corner. It's a city that seems to live entirely on the internet, a collection of perfectly curated moments ready for your social media feed. Many come here expecting to step directly into a film set, a vibrant, slightly mad world where every street corner offers a quirky spectacle. The reality, however, is a bit more complicated and frankly a bit more interesting than that. The Tokyo you see online is often a snapshot from a different time, a memory that has been polished and preserved long after the real thing has moved on. The thing is, Tokyo is not a museum, it's a living, breathing city of millions, and like any great metropolis, it changes. The scenes that became famous in the 90s or even the early 2000s have, in many cases, faded away or shifted elsewhere. The idea that you can just turn up in Yoyogi Park on a Sunday and find battalions of cosplayers and Harajuku girls posing for photos is, I'm afraid, a bit out of date. That particular ship has sailed. The city has evolved, influenced by global trends, the internet, and the sheer number of people who now visit, all looking for that same specific photo opportunity. The city's energy is still there, but it's not always where the guidebooks tell you to look. Take Harajuku's famous Takashita Street. It's often sold as the epicenter of youth fashion and rebellion. And while it is certainly, loud, it has become something of a victim of its own success. The street is now so packed with tourists that it can feel less like a cultural hub and more like a human traffic jam. The shops, once pioneers of unique street styles, now often cater to a more commercial, souvenir-hunting crowd. You can still find a giant rainbow-colored candy floss, of course, but the raw, creative spirit that put this little street on the map has become much harder to find amongst the crowds and the overpriced crepe stands. Similarly, Akihabara, the legendary electric town, has undergone a transformation. It was once the go-to place for hardcore electronics hobbyists and dedicated anime fans, a maze of tiny shops filled with obscure components and rare collectibles. Now, while the giant anime billboards remain, the ground floors of many buildings are dominated by enormous duty-free stores and mainstream chains. The specialist shops are still there, but they've been pushed upwards, into the higher floors of nondescript buildings, or down into basements. The soul of Akihabara hasn't vanished. It has just learned to hide in plain sight, away from the casual visitor. So what happened? Why has the Tokyo of postcards and travel blogs become so elusive? Well, in a word, us, tourists. The rise of social media and the Instagram effect have had a profound impact. When a place becomes famous online for a specific thing, be it cheap vintage clothing in Shimokitazawa or flamboyant goths in Yoyogi Park, a predictable cycle begins. Hordes of visitors arrive, cameras at the ready, hoping to capture that exact same image. This intense focus can paradoxically snuff out the very thing that made the place special to begin with. The locals who created the scene in the first place often move on, seeking quieter, more authentic spaces away from the crowds. Think of Shimokitazawa. For years it was Tokyo's undisputed king of cool, a bohemian paradise of independent theaters, live music venues, and most famously, second-hand clothing stores. You could spend a day getting lost in its narrow winding streets and come away with a fantastic vintage jacket for next to nothing. But its fame grew. Landlords saw an opportunity and rents went up. The small, quirky shops that couldn't afford the new prices were replaced by slicker, more commercial ventures, selling vintage at designer prices. The bargain hunter's paradise has become a much more polished and expensive version of itself. The story in Yoyogi Park is much the same. The weekly gathering of cosplayers and subculture tribes was a spontaneous, organic event. It was a place for young people to express themselves freely. But as it became a must-see tourist attraction, it started to feel less like a community gathering and more like an unpaid performance. The constant demand for photos turned participants into exhibits, and many simply stopped coming. You might still see the fantastic rockabilly dancers, the Elvis impersonators who have been there for decades, bless them. They are a wonderful, enduring piece of Tokyo's cultural puzzle. But the wider, more diverse gathering of styles is largely a thing of the past. This isn't to say these neighborhoods are not worth visiting at all, far from it. Shimokitazawa still has an incredible density of small, independent music venues, the true heart of the area's creative scene. Akihabara remains a pilgrimage site for gamers and anime fans provided you know where to look. The problem is that the surface level has been sanded down and repackaged for mass consumption. The authenticity hasn't disappeared entirely, it has just retreated from the main streets, becoming less obvious and requiring a bit more effort from the visitor to uncover. It's a city that rewards curiosity over convenience. So, if the good stuff is hiding, how on earth do you find it? The key is to start seeing Tokyo not as a collection of famous spots, but as a vertical, multi-layered puzzle. In most Western cities, the interesting things are on the ground floor with a big sign and a welcoming shopfront. In Tokyo, that's just the beginning. The real gems are often hidden in plain sight, tucked away in basements or on the 7th floor of an office block that looks utterly uninteresting from the street. You have to learn to read the signs, literally. Look for the vertical directories at the entrance to buildings. You might find a tiny specialist record shop, a cozy whiskey bar, or a gallery listed for the 4th floor. Exploring side streets is absolutely essential. The moment you step off the main, crowded thoroughfare, the character of a neighborhood can change completely. A street that runs parallel to a tourist-packed avenue might be home to quiet, family-run restaurants, tiny independent boutiques, or workshops where artisans are making things by hand. This is where you'll find the Tokyo that people actually live in. Don't be afraid to wander without a map for a little while. Get deliberately lost for half an hour. You will almost certainly stumble upon something wonderful that isn't in any guidebook because it's not for tourists. It's just for people. Another brilliant tip is to look for live music venues, or live houses as they're known here. These places are the lifeblood of Tokyo's independent creative scenes. From punk rock and experimental noise to jazz and folk, these small, often subterranean venues are where new culture is born. Even if you don't know the bands, the atmosphere is electric, and you get a genuine insight into what young Tokyoites are passionate about. They are often clustered in areas like Shimokitazawa or Koenji, but you can find them all over the city if you keep your eyes peeled for posters and flyers in record shops or cafes. Finally, trust your instincts and follow the locals. If you see a queue of Japanese people waiting patiently outside a doorway with no English sign, there's a very good chance that something excellent is happening inside. It might be a ramen shop that has perfected its broth over 50 years, or a standing room-only bar with a brilliant chef. Be brave, smile, point, and use the few words of Japanese you know. More often than not, you'll be welcomed in. This is how you move beyond the curated experience and discover something that feels truly your own. If you're looking for the spirit that once defined Shimokitazawa, I'd suggest heading a few stops west on the Chuo line to Koenji. This neighborhood feels like Shimokitazawa did 20 years ago. It's a wonderful tangle of covered shopping arcades and narrow streets filled with genuinely affordable vintage stores, independent record shops, and a fantastic collection of tiny, unpretentious bars and restaurants. It has a slightly gritty, countercultural edge and is a stronghold of Tokyo's punk scene. It feels real and lived in, a place where creativity is still valued over commercial gloss. It's a brilliant place to just wander and see what you find. For those who love a good rummage, forget the overpriced vintage boutiques and head to a proper flea market. The Oi Racecourse Flea Market is one of the biggest and best, a sprawling affair held most weekends. Here you'll find everything from old kimonos and ceramics to retro toys and furniture, all being sold by regular people. It's a proper treasure hunt, and you get a much better sense of Japanese material culture than you would in a curated shop. It's a slice of local life, and the prices are what they should be. You'll be browsing alongside Tokyo families, not just other tourists, which is always a good sign. Don't be afraid to explore areas that aren't on the standard tourist trail. Venture north of the station in Ikebukuro, away from the giant department stores, and you'll find a fascinating, grittier side of the city. Or explore Shinjuku Nichome, the heart of Tokyo's LGBTQ+ community, which is packed with hundreds of tiny, welcoming bars that offer a completely different kind of nightlife experience. Every district has its own unique character, its own hidden corners that are waiting to be discovered. The city is so much more than just the 5 or 6 neighborhoods that get all the attention. Ultimately, the best way to experience Tokyo is to arrive with an open mind and a healthy dose of curiosity. The city doesn't lay all its secrets out for you on a platter. It asks you to participate, to look a little closer, and to be adventurous. Let go of the need to replicate the photos you've seen online, and instead focus on creating your own experiences. Be a thoughtful, respectful traveler. Peek down that alleyway, climb those stairs, and try that place with no English menu. If you do, I promise you will find a Tokyo that is far more rewarding and memorable than any tourist trap. You'll find the Tokyo that its residents know and love. And that really is the whole point.